Hello everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today's chess puzzle, well, let's just say it's got a pretty fascinating position. So first things first, let's get the board set up.
All right, lay it on me.
Okay, so for white, we've got, let's see, bishop on b4, pawn on h4, pawn on a3, pawn on d3.
Okay, keep going.
Knight on f3, pawn on g3, then another pawn on f2, bishop on g2, king on h2, rook on c1, queen on d1, and finally a rook on e1.
Got it. And what about black?
Black has, let's see, rook on a8, rook on e8, king on g8, pawn on a7, pawn on b7,
Okay, I'm following along.
pawn on g7, pawn on h7. Then we've got a bishop on b6, knight on c6, pawn on f6, bishop on d5, pawn on e5, pawn on d4. And to wrap it up, a queen on g4.
All right, so quite a setup there.
Yeah, and taking a look, it seems like black's queen on g4 really putting a lot of pressure on white's position.
That queen is definitely a menacing presence, controls a lot of key squares.
Right, but I'm wondering, is there a way white can, I don't know, kind of use that to their advantage somehow?
Interesting thought. What's intriguing is that black's queen, while powerful, is also pretty exposed out there on g4, and white's knight on f3. It's kind of positioned in a way that could, exploit that.
Oh, I see what you mean. So if white's knight moves to e5.
Bingo. Forks black's queen and the rook on e8. Forces black to make a choice, and neither option is very appealing.
Wow, yeah, that's a tough spot for black to be in. So what would black do?
Well, the most logical response would be to capture the knight with their own knight on c6.
Right, makes sense. But then what happens? What can white do?
That's where things get interesting. After black captures the knight, white can develop their bishop on g2 to d5.
Ah, so attacking black's queen again.
Exactly. And the only square that keeps the queen safe is back on d1.
Okay, so I see where you're going with this. By pushing the black queen back to d1, white's limiting its, influence on the board.
Precisely. And here's where the real magic happens. With the black queen tucked away on d1, white can sacrifice their rook on e1. They'll move it to e5, capturing the black rook on e8.
Wait, a rook sacrifice? That's a pretty bold move, isn't it?
Bold, but brilliant. And black has no choice but to capture back with their rook on a8.
Okay, I can see that. So what happens next?
Now, white swoops in with their other rook, moving it from c1 to d1.
And then?
Black takes white's rook with their rook on e8.
Got it. So to recap, the answer is white. Knight from f3 to e5, black. Knight from c6 to e5, white. Bishop from g2 to d5, black. King from g8 to h8.
You got it. Keep going.
White. Rook from e1 to e5, black. Queen from g4 to d1, white. Rook from e5 to e8, black. Rook from a8 to e8, and finally, white. Rook from c1 to d1.
Exactly. Now, you might notice that this sequence of moves doesn't actually end in checkmate.
Right, so what's the point of it all then?
Well, by sacrificing a rook, white gains something even better. Control the open d-file. It's like a highway for their rook and queen to attack.
Ah, I see. So white could really bring the pressure now.
Exactly. Plus, they have a powerful passed pawn on d3. It's free to advance and threaten promotion. Black's in a tough spot.
Wow, so even though it's not a checkmate, white's basically set themselves up to win. That's incredible.
Chess is a game of subtle advantages. Sometimes a sacrifice like this can make all the difference.
Well, I definitely learned something new today. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for listening. Until next time.